The woman appeared out of nowhere. And 30 seconds later, Elvis Presley forgot the words to his own song. Not because he was tired. Not because he was sick. Not because of the screaming crowd. But because the face emerging from the darkness belonged to someone who was never supposed to return. Someone he had spent 21 years trying to forget. And failing. What happened next would become one of the most unbelievable nights in Elvis Presley's life. Because before the concert ended, 25,000 people would witness a secret heartbreak that had haunted the king of rock and roll for more than 2 decades. A heartbreak hidden behind every love song he ever sang. And it all began with a voice that should not have been there. August 16, 1976. Memphis, Tennessee. The city that had built Elvis. The city he never truly left behind. Outside the Mid-South Coliseum, the summer heat still clung stubbornly to the pavement even after sunset. Thousands of fans crowded the entrances. Some had traveled across states. Others had crossed the country. Many had waited years for this moment. Inside, the atmosphere felt electric. 25,000 people filled every seat. The air smelled of perfume, cigarette smoke, excitement, and anticipation. Every conversation led to one subject. Elvis. The lights dimmed. The crowd exploded. A deafening wall of sound crashed through the arena. Then he appeared. The king, dressed in white, bathed in light, walking onto the stage as if he owned the night itself. The audience erupted. Women screamed. Men stood on their feet. Some fans immediately began crying. For a few seconds, the noise became so overwhelming that even the musicians could barely hear each other. Elvis smiled. He had experienced this thousands of times. Yet something felt different tonight. A strange pressure sat inside his chest. A feeling he couldn't explain. Not fear. Not anxiety. Something else. Something heavier. Like a memory trying to claw its way back to the surface. He ignored it. The show began. One hit followed another. Hound Dog. Burning Love. Suspicious Minds. Every song landed perfectly. The audience sang every word. People danced in the aisles. Security struggled to keep fans from rushing toward the stage. It should have been a perfect night. Yet that strange feeling never disappeared. It stayed with him, growing stronger, like a warning, like fate whispering from somewhere just beyond reach. As the concert moved deeper into the evening, the energy gradually shifted. The wild excitement gave way to something more intimate, more personal, more vulnerable. This was always Elvis's favorite part of any performance. The masks came off. The spectacle disappeared. The superstar faded. The man remained. The stage lights softened. The band stepped back. And Elvis walked alone toward the center microphone, carrying an acoustic guitar. The arena instantly quieted. 25,000 people became silent. It was almost unsettling. One moment chaos. The next moment absolute stillness. Elvis adjusted the guitar strap on his shoulder. His fingers brushed the strings. A familiar melody drifted into the darkness. The opening notes of Love Me Tender. The reaction was immediate. A wave of emotion moved through the audience. For many fans, this wasn't just a song. It was a memory, a soundtrack to first loves, first heartbreaks, lost years, lost people, lost dreams. For Elvis, however, the song carried a different weight. A secret weight. A name he rarely spoke. A face he never completely forgot. As he began singing, old memories flickered behind his eyes. A tiny house in Memphis. Long summer evenings. A front porch illuminated by moonlight. A girl laughing. A girl singing beside him. A girl telling him his dreams were too big for Memphis. A girl promising she would never leave. Then leaving anyway. Elvis pushed the memory away. He had spent 21 years doing exactly that. The crowd didn't notice the brief shadow crossing his face. The audience only heard the voice. That voice, smooth, warm, timeless. The voice that had conquered the world. Love me tender. The first verse floated effortlessly through the arena. Every listener seemed hypnotized. No movement. No talking. No distractions. Only Elvis. Only the song. Then something impossible happened. Another voice joined him. At first, it was so faint that many people assumed they imagined it. A soft harmony, almost ghost-like, barely there. Elvis frowned slightly. One of the backup singers. Maybe. But something felt wrong. The harmony wasn't coming from where it should. It wasn't following the arrangement. And yet, it fit perfectly. Too perfectly. The second voice returned. Stronger this time. Closer. The audience heard it now. Heads turned. People exchanged confused looks. The musicians looked toward each other. Nobody knew where it was coming from. The mysterious voice continued. Pure. Natural. Unpolished. It lacked professional training. Yet somehow that made it even more beautiful. There was pain inside it. Years of pain. Years of longing. Years of regret. Every note carried emotion that couldn't be faked. Elvis continued singing. But his focus was gone. His eyes moved toward the backstage darkness. The voice was coming from there. He was sure of it. A strange chill crawled through his body. Because the harmony felt familiar. Not the voice itself. The feeling behind it. As though someone had reached into his past and pulled out a forgotten piece of his soul. The harmony rose again. And suddenly, Elvis missed a beat. Not enough for the audience to notice. But enough for him. His pulse accelerated. His fingers tightened around the guitar neck. The voice knew the song. Not the recorded version. Not the concert version. A different version. An older version. The way he used to sing it before fame. Before the records. Before the world changed. Only one other person had ever heard that version. Only one. His heart slammed against his ribs. No. Impossible. She couldn't be here. She couldn't. The voice moved closer. A figure appeared inside the shadows beyond the stage. The audience noticed immediately. A ripple of whispers swept through the arena. Someone was walking toward Elvis. Security reacted at once. Several guards began moving forward. Vast, focused, ready to intercept. The woman kept walking. She showed no fear, no hesitation, no uncertainty. She moved with calm confidence, as though she belonged there, as though this stage was hers too. The guards accelerated. Then Elvis raised one hand. The gesture was immediate, instinctive, powerful. Stop. The guards froze, confused. Even Elvis didn't understand why he had done it. Every rational thought told him security should remove her. Yet something deeper was controlling him now. Something beyond logic. The woman continued walking. One step, then another, then another. The tension inside the arena became unbearable. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. 25,000 people watched the mystery unfold. The spotlight slowly reached her. Dark hair, black dress, silver strands reflecting the light. She looked to be in her 40s. Beautiful, not because of perfection, because of history, because of sadness, because of everything life had written across her face. Then Elvis saw her eyes, and his entire body went cold. The guitar nearly slipped from his hands. No, no, it couldn't be. Not after all these years. Not after everything. The woman stepped closer. The spotlight climbed higher. Her features became clearer. Every second felt like an hour. Every heartbeat sounded like a drum. Memories exploded inside Elvis's mind. A rainy afternoon. A diner booth. A goodbye he never understood. Letters that stopped arriving. Questions that never received answers. 21 years of silence. 21 years of wondering. 21 years of pain hidden behind fame. The woman took one final step and entered the full light. Time stopped. Elvis stopped singing. Completely. The arena gasped. His fingers still moved automatically across the strings, but his voice vanished. The king of rock and roll stood frozen before 25,000 people, staring, unable to speak, unable to breathe, unable to believe what he was seeing. The woman continued singing, and suddenly the song no longer belonged to Elvis. It belonged to both of them. Tears filled his eyes. Real tears. The kind that come from wounds that never healed. For nearly half a minute, he simply stared. The audience didn't understand, but they felt it. Everyone felt it. Something enormous was happening. Something deeply personal. Something life-changing. Then finally, Elvis spoke. One word. A whisper. Barely audible, yet powerful enough to shake the entire room. Diane. The woman's eyes instantly filled with tears. A trembling smile appeared on her lips, and with a single nod, she confirmed every impossible thought racing through Elvis's mind. It was her. The girl who had broken his heart. The girl who had disappeared. The girl he had searched for. The girl he never stopped loving. After 21 years, Diane Sullivan had come back, and she had chosen the middle of an Elvis Presley concert to do it. But what nobody in that arena knew was this. The biggest shock of the night was not Diane's return. It was the secret she had carried for 21 years. A secret that would change everything Elvis believed about the day she left him forever. For several seconds, nobody moved. Not the band. Not the security guards. Not the audience. 25,000 people sat frozen as Elvis Presley stared into the eyes of the woman he had spent half his life trying to forget. The arena felt suspended outside of time. The song had ended. Yet nobody noticed. Nobody cared. Because something far more powerful than music was unfolding in front of them. Diane. The name left Elvis's lips again. This time louder. More certain. More painful. His voice trembled, not from fear, from memory. The woman standing before him smiled through tears. Years of sorrow seemed to live behind that smile. Years of unanswered questions. Years of unfinished conversations. Years of words that should have been spoken long ago. "Hello, Elvis." The simple greeting struck him harder than any scream from the crowd ever could. Because suddenly, he wasn't standing inside a packed arena. He was 20 years old again. A young man with impossible dreams. A cheap guitar. And a girl who believed in him before the world did. His throat tightened. The memories came rushing back. The late-night conversations. The promises. The plans. The future they had imagined together. A future that had vanished overnight. For 21 years, he had replayed that disappearance in his mind. Searching for answers. Searching for reasons. Searching for peace. And now the answer stood only a few feet away. Alive. Real. Looking directly at him. The audience remained silent. Even the fans in the highest seats understood they were witnessing something extraordinary. Something no concert ticket could ever promise. Something impossible to rehearse. Real life. Raw and unfiltered. Elvis swallowed hard. "I thought I'd never see you again." The microphone carried every word throughout the building. Diane nodded slowly. "I know." The simplicity of her answer somehow made it hurt more. Elvis laughed softly. A broken laugh. The kind that appears when pain becomes too heavy. "You disappeared." Diane lowered her eyes. For the first time since stepping onto the stage, uncertainty appeared across her face. And suddenly, the confident woman who had walked through the darkness seemed fragile. Almost frightened. As though she had spent years preparing for this moment and still wasn't ready. The tension inside the arena tightened. Everyone could feel it. Something important was coming. Something that had been buried for decades. "I know I disappeared." Her voice was barely above a whisper. But there was a reason. Elvis stared at her. His heart hammered against his chest. For 21 years, he had imagined countless explanations. Maybe she stopped loving him. Maybe she met someone else. Maybe fame scared her. Maybe she simply forgot him. Every possibility had tortured him. Now the truth was finally within reach. And suddenly, he wasn't sure he wanted to hear it. Because sometimes the unknown hurts less than reality. The crowd waited. Diane took a slow breath. Then another. Her hands trembled slightly. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of 2 decades. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you." The arena became so quiet that even distant air conditioning units could be heard. Every eye remained fixed on the stage. Elvis didn't blink. He couldn't. "I left because I loved you too much." The words struck him like lightning. His expression changed instantly. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. Pain. Hope. All colliding at once. For a moment, he couldn't speak. His mind refused to process what he'd just heard. The crowd reacted with an audible gasp. Even strangers could feel the significance of those words. Elvis shook his head slowly. "No." The word escaped before he could stop it. "No, Diane." His voice cracked. "If you loved me, why leave?" The question came out sharper than intended. Not angry. Wounded. A wound 21 years old, suddenly reopening. Diane closed her eyes. For a second, it looked like she might break down completely. But when she opened them again, determination had replaced fear. Because she had carried this burden long enough. And tonight, she was finally going to put it down. You remember 1955. A sad smile touched Elvis's face. Every day. Diane nodded. Then you remember what was happening. He did. Of course he did. The records were exploding. The crowds were growing. The newspapers were calling. Managers, promoters, television appearances, tour schedules. Everything was moving faster than either of them could comprehend. The world was opening its doors, and Elvis Presley was walking through them. I watched it happen. Diane's eyes shimmered. I watched your dreams come true. She paused, and I became terrified. Elvis frowned. Terrified of what? Of becoming the reason those dreams stopped. The crowd remained silent. Nobody wanted to miss a single word. Diane looked toward the thousands of faces surrounding them. Then back at Elvis. You were becoming something bigger than either of us. Her voice strengthened. I could see it before anyone else could. The tears returned. I knew the world was about to claim you. Elvis listened without speaking. You were going to travel. You were going to make movies. You were going to become a symbol. You were going to belong to millions of people. Her voice cracked. And I was afraid you'd choose me over all of it. A wave of emotion crossed Elvis's face. Because deep down he knew she was right. At 20 years old, he would have. Without hesitation. Without regret. For her. He would have walked away from everything. The records. The fame. The fortune. The future. All of it. Diane saw the realization appear in his eyes. And it confirmed what she had suspected for 21 years. I couldn't let that happen. The words came out trembling. So I left. Elvis looked away. The pain was visible now. Raw. Exposed. Years of unresolved grief rising to the surface. The audience watched in stunned silence. Nobody expected to witness this level of honesty. Not from Elvis. Not from anyone. Then Diane said something that shattered him completely. I married another man because I knew it was the only way you'd stop chasing me. A collective gasp moved through the arena. Elvis stared at her, speechless. For decades he had believed she chose someone else. Believed he wasn't enough. Believed she wanted a different life. Now everything was changing. Everything. The entire story he had carried inside his heart for 21 years was collapsing. I never stopped loving you. Diane's voice trembled. Not once. Elvis lowered his head. The tears came freely now. He made no effort to hide them. He couldn't. The pain was too real. Too old. Too deep. The audience saw it all. The superstar. The icon. The king. Gone. Only a man remained. A man confronting the greatest heartbreak of his life. Diane stepped closer. I followed your career. Elvis slowly looked up. I listened to every song. I watched every movie. I bought every record. A small smile appeared through her tears. And every time I heard you sing a love song. She paused. I wondered if part of it was still about me. Elvis laughed weakly, then shook his head. No. The crowd waited. No. Diane whispered. Elvis wiped his eyes. then looked directly at her. Not part of it. His voice cracked. All of it. The audience erupted emotionally. Some cried openly. Others held hands. Many simply stared, unable to believe what they were hearing. Elvis continued. Every heartbreak song, every lonely song, every song about losing someone. He pointed gently toward her. That was you. Diane covered her mouth. Her knees nearly gave out. For years she had suspected, but hearing it spoken aloud was something else entirely. The truth hit her harder than expected. Elvis took a step closer. Now only inches separated them. I spent 21 years asking myself one question. The tension became unbearable. Diane's eyes locked onto his. What question? Elvis's voice dropped almost to a whisper. Did you ever think about coming back? The arena held its breath. Diane closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek. Then another. When she answered, her voice was barely audible. I came back 12 times. Confusion crossed Elvis's face. What? 12 concerts? She smiled sadly. I sat in the back every time. The audience gasped. Elvis stared at her, unable to believe it. I watched you sing. I watched you smile. I watched thousands of people love you. Her voice broke, and every single time I was too afraid to come closer. Elvis looked stunned. 12 times. She nodded. 12. The revelation hit him like another wave. For years she had been there, closer than he ever knew. Watching, listening, remembering, and leaving. Again and again. Then Diane reached into her purse. The audience leaned forward. Slowly, carefully, she pulled out something old. Something folded. Something worn by time. A yellowed envelope. Elvis's expression changed instantly. Because he recognized it. Or at least he thought he did. Diane held it tightly. I was going to give this to you 21 years ago. Elvis felt his heartbeat accelerate. The envelope looked ancient. Fragile. Important. What is it? Diane's eyes filled with tears again. It's the truth. A chill swept through Elvis. Because suddenly he understood. The biggest secret wasn't why she left. The biggest secret was still waiting inside that envelope. And whatever was written there had been hidden for 21 years. She slowly held it out toward him. The entire arena watched. Every eye, every breath, every heartbeat, focused on a single piece of paper. Elvis reached for it, his hand trembling. Neither of them knew that the words inside were about to change everything. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. It was only a few sheets of paper. Yet as Elvis held it in his trembling hands, it felt as though he was holding 21 years of unanswered questions. 21 years of sleepless nights. 21 years of wondering why. The entire arena watched in complete silence. Not a single person moved. 25,000 strangers had become witnesses to the most personal moment of Elvis Presley's life. Diane stood motionless. Her eyes never left him. For years, she had imagined this exact moment. The moment he would finally know the truth. The moment she would finally stop carrying the burden alone. Elvis looked down at the yellowed envelope. The paper was worn. The corners bent. Time had left its fingerprints all over it. Slowly, he opened it. Inside was a folded letter. The handwriting instantly hit him like a punch to the chest. He recognized it immediately. Diane's handwriting. The same handwriting he used to see on little notes she slipped into his jacket pocket. The same handwriting he once imagined would fill birthday cards, anniversary letters, and perhaps one-day wedding invitations. His vision blurred. He unfolded the paper. The audience could hear nothing except the faint rustle of agging pages. Then Elvis began reading. At first, silently. His eyes moved slowly across the words. One line, then another, then another. The color drained from his face. The crowd watched his expression change. Shock, confusion, pain, disbelief. Then something else. Something deeper. Understanding. A tear rolled down his cheek. Then another. Diane quietly wiped her own eyes. Because she remembered every word written on that page. She had written it in one night. One terrible night. The night she walked away. The night she broke both their hearts. Elvis finally lowered the letter. For several seconds, he couldn't speak. The audience waited. Diane waited. Even the musicians stood frozen. Finally, Elvis raised his head. His voice was barely a whisper. You wrote this. Diane nodded. Every word. He looked back down at the letter. The words echoed inside his mind. The letter wasn't a goodbye. That was the shocking part. It wasn't a rejection. It wasn't a confession of lost love. It was the exact opposite. Every page was filled with love. Every sentence, every line, every word. Diane had written that she loved him more than anything. That she believed he was destined for greatness. That she feared becoming an anchor tied to a man meant to fly. She wrote that if she stayed, Elvis would choose her over his future. And she couldn't allow that. Not because she loved him less. Because she loved him too much. The arena remained silent. Some people were already crying. Others held tissues against their faces. The story unfolding before them felt almost unreal. Like a movie. Yet every tear on that stage was real. Every word was real. Every wound was real. Elvis looked up again. His eyes red. His voice broken. I never got this letter. Diane nodded slowly. I know. Why? The question hung in the air. For 21 years, it had waited for an answer. Diane took a deep breath. My father. Elvis frowned. My father found the letter before I mailed it. The audience collectively held its breath. Diane continued. He thought I was making a mistake. He thought your future would destroy me. He thought fame would destroy us both. Her voice trembled. So he burned every letter I wrote. The arena erupted with shocked gasps. Elvis froze. For a moment, he looked unable to process what he had just heard. You wrote more than one. Diane nodded. A tear rolled down her cheek. 37. The number hit him like a bullet. 37. 37 letters. 37 chances. 37 attempts to tell him she still loved him. Gone. Destroyed. Never delivered. Elvis closed his eyes. The realization was unbearable. For 21 years, both of them had suffered. Both of them had believed the other had moved on. Both of them had lived separate lives because of words that never arrived. A silence settled over the arena. A painful silence, the kind that only appears when people realize how fragile life truly is. How easily destiny can change. How a single missing letter can alter decades. Elvis slowly folded the paper, then looked directly at Diane. What happened to the others? Diane smiled sadly. They're gone. A long pause followed. But I memorized every one. The crowd reacted emotionally. Many people openly sobbed now. Because this wasn't just about Elvis anymore. It was about every lost opportunity. Every missed chance. Every person who waited too long. Every love story interrupted by fear. Elvis suddenly laughed. A strange laugh. Half joy. Half heartbreak. Diane looked confused. What is it? Elvis shook his head. We wasted 21 years. His voice cracked. 21 years. Neither of them could argue. Neither of them wanted to. The truth hurt too much. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Not as celebrities. Not as legends. Not as symbols. Just two people. Two people who had loved each other. Two people who never truly stopped. Then someone in the audience shouted, "Sing together." Another voice joined. Then another. And another. Within seconds, thousands of people were cheering, clapping, begging. The entire arena wanted one thing. Music. Not because they wanted entertainment. Because they wanted healing. Elvis looked at Diane. Diane looked at Elvis. A small smile appeared. The first genuine smile either of them had shown all night. Without another word, Elvis picked up his guitar. The audience exploded. His fingers touched the strings. The familiar melody returned. Love Me Tender. This time neither of them sang alone. Their voices met, merged, became one. Something magical happened. The years disappeared. The heartbreak disappeared. The distance disappeared. It was as if 21 years had collapsed into a single moment. Every person in the arena felt it. Some closed their eyes. Some held each other. Some simply cried. The song became more than music. It became forgiveness. It became closure. It became a second chance. When the final note faded, the arena erupted into the loudest applause of the night. But nobody wanted the moment to end. Not yet. Elvis stepped closer. Close enough to take Diane's hands. For several seconds, he simply looked at her. The crowd sensed something was coming. Something important. Then Elvis spoke. You know. The audience instantly quieted. His voice trembled. I spent 21 years searching for answers. He squeezed her hands gently. And tonight I found them. Diane smiled through tears. So did I. The arena remained silent. Waiting. Listening. Remembering. Elvis looked around at the thousands of faces surrounding them. Then back at Diane. Finally, he smiled. A real smile. The kind many people hadn't seen from him in years. The kind that reached his eyes. The kind that comes only when a person finally lays down a burden they have carried for far too long. And in that moment, something became clear. The greatest gift of life is not fame. Not money. Not success. It is finding the courage to tell people what they mean to you before time takes the opportunity away. Because years can disappear. People can disappear. Chances can disappear. But love has a strange way of surviving. Even through silence, even through distance, even through decades. The audience rose to its feet. Every single person. A standing ovation unlike any the Colosseum had ever witnessed. Not for a performance, not for a celebrity, for a story. A story about lost time. A story about forgiveness. A story about two hearts finding their way back to each other after 21 years of darkness. And as the applause thundered through the building, Elvis and Diane stood together beneath the lights. Not thinking about the years they had lost. Not thinking about the pain. Not thinking about the mistakes. Only thinking about the miracle of this moment. Because sometimes life gives people a second chance. And sometimes that second chance arrives when they least expect it. The crowd would remember the concert forever. Not because of the songs. Not because of the fame. But because on that night, 25,000 people witnessed something far more powerful than music. They witnessed hope. They witnessed forgiveness. And they witnessed two souls discovering that even after 21 years, some stories are not over. They are simply waiting for the final chapter.